Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for November 23rd, 2021. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is a webcast and podcast where we dig deep into the clutter that stays between people and the lives they want to be living. We aim to make sense of where so much stuff comes from in the first place, and we offer strategies to slow down the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we choose to keep. We rely heavily on the questions and topic suggestions we get from you, our viewers and listeners.
If you're joining us in the Zoom meeting for the first time, you can share your comments and questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle gets to them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature to let me know that you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And as always, we are streaming the webcast on Facebook, so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by recapping last week's weekly tittle, which was called Creating a Vision Part 1. I'll bet you can guess what this week's weekly tittle is going to be called. The assignment was to begin the process of designing a vision for your home based on the factors we discussed last week: non-negotiable objects you plan to keep, stakeholders in your decision-making process, functions and purposes you want your home to serve, and relics that feel disconnected from who you are now. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and Facebook who engaged with the tittle this week. Please let us know in the comments. And so far, no one has reported on the tittle. This was a challenging one, and I don't know whether people will have dug into it yet, or we're waiting to hear what we had to say this week. So we might have to just dive right into this week and circle back to see what people have to report to us on last week.
Okay.
So I think let's get to it. As I said, last week we talked about your home's functions, the people who live there, and your most loved belongings that contribute to a vision for your home that supports the life you want. Today, we're going to talk about several more critical factors: values, dreams, aspirations, goals, and we'll see if we can integrate those into the process of shaping a vision to clarify and guide your decluttering efforts.
So I am seeing chat now as people are reporting their results.
Okay, well then let's talk about that a little bit.
In the chat box.
M says, I ended up with long lists for the tittle. That's good. That's where we were trying to get you to go.
Aiming. Exactly.
Yeah. And Connie said, I did talk to my DH about it. His vision, not having to move.
Not having to move?
Yes, as part of his vision.
All right.
I don't know if that means not having to move like out of his chair or not having to move to a new place to live. Well, Connie, you'll have to elaborate on that.
That's so funny. So I'm going to guess it's that, he doesn't want to have to downsize or move somewhere else. He wants to age in place. And so they want to plan for that.
Yeah, no, well, and Connie said no major changes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
JC said, I bought little adhesive spots, red, yellow, and green, to choose what I'd like to have in my new home, planning on moving in a few years. And the dots are for no headache packing when the day comes.
Oh, that's a great idea. And everything that is, I'm assuming green is going and yellow is maybe, and red is, I don't want it anymore. And
out of here, or
yeah, if you're planning on moving in a couple of years, then now's the perfect time to start the long, laborious task of removing things from the house that you don't want anywhere in the new space. It's not an unusual process to start touching everything and figuring out, oh, I don't want to take these with me when we move. And then you have a whole bunch of distribution to do all at the last minute. So if you can start doing that distribution stuff now and thinning the house out to what you actually want to move, it will make packing 1,000 times easier when it gets down to it.
Catherine says, busy with holiday decorating, assessing the stuff which may have accumulated too much through the years. And
deal.
Emily Sue said, my husband and I started making a list of the belongings that we want to keep. I've identified some bins and their contents that I no longer need, so they will be going to the donation center soon.
Yay. Well, and having a discussion with your husband about these are the things that absolutely I want to stay and I want to incorporate in whatever space or wherever we live. It's great to have those identified and discussed between the two of you, so everybody knows these things are not negotiable. They're going they're going to be wherever we are. And so that's a good thing to focus on and identify. And then it makes the rest of the things that don't fall in that category more obvious and easy to identify.
Yeah. Craig said, we've been stuck in our piles so long, I fear that moving might be the only solution, but hate moving more than almost anything in life. And we've talked about
Everybody hates moving.
using a real move or an imaginary down the road move as your motivation. And if that works for you, then use it. But the vision process that we're talking about is meant to take you a little further, give you more positive motivations besides the negative motivation of a move, the threat.
I want to avoid the move.
Yeah.
Right. And help you evaluate your stuff easier when you get to that moving process. If you don't have to move, fabulous. But if you expect or plan or anticipate a move sometime in the next decade, then going through this stuff now and identifying what doesn't need to be a part of that just makes your move process easier. It's all in service of doing it in little bites over a long period of time instead of doing a whole lot of work all at once at the end. Anything that you can do in little bites now just makes your life easier at when moving becomes a reality.
Giorgio said, I watched a Netflix show called The Minimalist, and it inspired me to clean up my home. Do you know if is that a new?
No, that's the
one we've seen.
Well,
documentary.
it's not the one that we saw. That they had a more recent production that they just put out in the last year.
Oh, okay.
And so it's another movie by the minimalist guys who are trying to put that message out there in whatever way they can. So great. I'm glad it worked. I'm glad it was good inspiration. And I'm sure that was exactly their goal, hoping for you to see it differently, and fabulous. If you saw it differently, that means you won the prize.
Samudra said, I found the idea of negotiable versus non-negotiable really useful. I don't label people, but labels really help with things.
That whole part of no matter where I go or no matter what happens, this object is staying with me makes the decision making. It's like, well, then you have to incorporate it in whatever vision of the house, whatever version of the house that you're going to create. It needs to be there and have a place and a thought out place for it to go. And so it just means that if you have something that's sort of not in sync with the rest of the house, but it absolutely is staying no matter what, then you can, try to incorporate it and try to find a space that it makes sense and, adapt it, decorate it, put things in it that support and go with your vision of the house.
Wolf, who's with us on Facebook, said, we've been making plans for quite a while now after flooding ruined our finished basement. At least when we refinish it, we can make it what we want. Yeah,
exactly. And it doesn't have to be storage. It can be something besides storage or in addition to storage or instead of storage. It can be another useful room. So if you have the opportunity and the insurance helps you fix it and build it out again, then now's the time to plan. Instead of a junk room at the bottom of my house, maybe I want this to be fill in the blank. My exercise room, my meditation room, my craft room, my man cave, my fill in the blank, right? Now's the time to vision it.
Yeah. Maria, who is joining us from Haifa, Israel. That's very exciting. I think that's the first person who's joined us live via Israel or bothered to tell us that they did.
Right.
Maria says, Maria says, moving is terrifying. Last time we moved, we barely had anything. This time there's an apartment bursting with stuff.
All right. Time
Yes,
to start letting some things go then.
I feel her pain.
Right.
Remember how I got rid of practically everything I owned?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you've gathered some more.
Found some more stuff.
But just think about it. If you hadn't gotten rid of all that stuff, how big the pile would be now?
Oh gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
Like y'all would not have fit into 1,200 square feet if you had not denuded your house when you moved out of it, basically. Right?
Tara said, I like the term relics. I need humor about myself to turn my perspective.
That's what we're trying to do here. Make you laugh about it while you're doing the work.
We do try to inject some humor because it's better to be laughing while you're doing this than crying.
Exactly. And the suffering and the irritation and the problems related to getting organized are universal for everyone. And we all struggle in the same way, and we all hit the same points of problem. And so we might as well support each other with some laughter and make it easier to move forward, right?
Yeah. Rowan said, I cheated. I moved 1,000 miles a year ago with 15 boxes and 4 large rolling suitcases. But I have thinking to do about what I want versus just what I really need.
Right.
There might be some decor.
Or little, enhancements to make now that you've at your space and you have then down your contents to a volume that you feel that you can manage and is exactly the right amount. And now you can go about.
Well, or it's the right amount. It's the right amount for what she needs.
Right.
And now she can, as space permits, enhance it to
think about what you want.
Bit of vision. Yeah.
Yeah. What would make that more comfortable, more fabulous for you? Absolutely. Speaking of which, now's a good time.
Yes.
We should start talking about that, right?
Yes. Let's get into this week's additions to the visioning process.
Okay, so this is where we're going to talk about values. So as opposed to all the practical things we did last week about who are the people that are involved in the decision making and what are the objects that absolutely have to come no matter what, now we wanted to talk about the values related to the house. Are there values or principles that you want to honor and reflect in your home? So here's some examples. We're going to make a list. It isn't meant to be exhaustive, and you may embrace several or many of them, or even though they might conflict or overlap, and some of them may not resonate for you. So we're just trying to select out of the air many values that might apply to you, and you pick the ones that work for you. So the first one that we came up with is an obvious one, right? The idea of the value of order or structure. You want a clean and orderly space with minimal visual stimulation for maximum peace of mind. The idea that a place for everything and everything in its place is your motto. Maybe that level of order and structure in the house is where you find peace and comfort and feel the most connected. Maybe your value is spontaneity and fun. You like a space that provides lots of opportunities and raw material for entertainment, hobbies, and exploring a variety of interests. I, think crafty person, think musician, think artist, think movie buff, whatever you find that is fun and how you support yourself in having the fun that you like to have. Maybe your value is about the aesthetic of the home. You have very specific ideas about what makes things beautiful. They're not exactly the same as anyone else's, and that's okay. They can be what you think is beautiful, and you can arrange the house to reflect that aesthetic. Another value might be comfort. Your house needs to be supportive for your physical needs. And if you prefer comfort above all else, then plan for that. Another value is convenience. What about convenience? We talk often about making things easy to use. If you value convenience, then incorporate how easy it is to find and use things in your home into your vision of your home, that it needs to be easy for you to function in the house. Another value would be personal growth. If you have goals for personal improvement of yourself, mentally, emotionally, physically, the home can be designed to support that pursuit of learning, reading, and note-taking towards self-improvement. Hospitality is another value. You love to have people over for an evening or for a longer visit overnight. And you want to be able to create that community of family and friendship and fun. You want your house to support that function happening often. So maybe for an introvert, hospitality is not high on the list. For an extrovert, hospitality is very high on the list. For a grandma, maybe hospitality is very high on the list. So if you're the person that hosts all the family events, or you're the one that has all the big parties, then this is going to be a value that is at the top of your vision for your home and you need to plan for. What about health and fitness? Here's another value. If you want to be able to pursue your health and fitness goals in your home, then you can plan for the home gym or a workout area in your space so that you can pursue those goals, those personal goals, and have the house be supporting that personal goal. Another value might be tradition and spirituality. If it's important to you to connect with your family history or your religious and spiritual traditions and those practices and express these in your home, then aiming towards that value is important. Thrift is a good one. If you have a value about being thrifty, you have a strong commitment to live within your means, then part of the vision is how you can set up your home in a thrifty way, that you can support your thrifty habits in your home and keep that at the top of mind. Education and culture might be one of your values. If you want a home filled with literature, music, and art, and the pursuit and study of those things, maybe you're still in school, or maybe you have a literature, music, or art background, and that's part of what you find fascinating, interesting, then laying out your house around that value would be important. Maybe you're just a big individualist. You want your house to be a one-of-a-kind home that expresses your unique personality. I had a client many years ago who desperately wanted a purple dining room, dark purple dining room. And that's what she did. And it was not typical. It was not traditional. It was not a great selling point when they went to sell the house. But for that time, while she owned it, her house had a dark purple dining room with dark purple curtains and all kinds of accessories that made that whole room purple. And it made her super, super happy. Another value would be sustainability. You want to make choices based on reducing your impact on the environment and national resources. So as you're picking things to decorate the home, as you're laying out your home and managing the supplies that come in and out of your home, you want to keep sustainability in mind. And so you plan your vision of the house around that. There's so many more values that are important to people, and we can't obviously cover them all, but we have a little short list of a few more that we thought of that might be important to you to reflect or display in your home. Community was one, balance, harmony, peace. That might be around feng shui, the energy flow of the house, the harmony that the house and its contents have in relationship to each other and to the neighborhood that it's in. Maybe privacy and security are big concerns for you, and you want the house valued around those ideas. Self-sufficiency. You want to be self-sufficient in the house or self-sustaining in the house. If maybe you are somebody that's growing food in a garden, or you are composting, or you are doing specific things to heat or cool your home that make you self-sufficient, solar paneling, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
So,
canning and preserving.
Canning and preserving, exactly. So if you're doing things to be self-sufficient or self-sustaining, then planning for those functions in the house becomes one of the values you're aiming for. So that's a values list. First, we started with values. Now let's talk about dreams and aspirations. Let's think about how you want to feel, or how you want to help other people feel in your home. What feeling or feelings do you want your home or specific rooms to evoke? You can free associate a list of words or phrases that capture that feeling. For example, clean and bright. I want the house to feel clean and bright, or peaceful and welcoming, or quiet, restful and soothing, creative and energetic, safe, warm, and familiar. These are all word thoughts to describe a feeling that you want to have in your home. Pick yours, find yours, imagine yours, and then aim for it. What places have you lived or visited or imagined that evoke the feelings that you'd like to nurture here? You remember going to grandma's house with its well-worn furniture and lumpy beds and gigantic breakfasts and lots of laughter. Or maybe you really resonate with the sparse, stylish Airbnb that you rented for a weekend getaway. Or maybe from one of your vacations, you saw an English country cottage or a Tuscan farmhouse that you really loved, or you saw one in a design magazine and really appeals to you. Those places create a feeling for you that you want to aim for. Think about the specific details that made these places stand out for you. The light in the room, the materials that they used, the furnishings, what was included in the room and what was left out of the room. How sparse or dense is it? How much empty space or filled spaces are there? What does that level of look like for you when you find the one that makes you feel great and feel connected? Look for frequent and recurring themes and patterns in your dream spaces. What types or periods of furnishings? What color schemes do you really find yourself attracted to? What spaces for specific activities do you find that you think, oh, I really want to have a exercise room, a craft room, a man cave? Are there goals that you've set that will contribute to or impact your vision? What are you hoping to achieve or expecting to happen in the near horizon? Are you planning to get married or have a baby? Maybe you're going to go back to school or get a divorce. Maybe a parent is going to come to live with you soon. Your youngest child is headed off to college in a couple of years. All of these goals can be incorporated into your vision if you see the need coming in the near future. So now let's shape that vision. Capture it. Write it down if you're the writing type. The shape of the vision doesn't matter too much. It can be an outline. It can be a room by room list of bullet points. It can be a series of short statements. It can be one long narrative, like the one that Ginger shared that started this whole process for us. She wrote a long narrative paragraph about how she wanted to feel and what her house needed to be. You can create a vision board about it with photos and clippings and swatches and paint samples, words and phrases. Include photos of the current space besides the images of what you're dreaming. If you're digitally inclined, you can build that vision board on Instagram or on your own blog or website. Or you can just get out a pad of paper and make a list. It can be as easy or as vastly creative or analog or digital as you wish. The idea is just to capture it in some form. Let the vision guide you. We didn't create this homework just to keep you busy. Once you have a vision for your home, including what items need to stay, what and how much you want to own, how you want to feel in the house, what values you want to support, all the things we've gone over in these 2 episodes, then you have a blueprint for evaluating everything in your decluttering project. When you find yourself stalled or stuck or confused in your efforts to declutter and decorate, consult your vision statement and your vision board. Ask yourself if the item you're stuck on or the choice you're considering fits in the bigger picture and where. Does the item contribute something to the home of your vision? Are you really adding to your vision? Are you dovetailing with your vision? Are you supporting your vision? Or is this is this in opposition to your vision? If it doesn't support that vision, then it tells you what needs to happen. It's time to let it go. We're trying to give you that blueprint to help you make your choices so that making those choices are easier. One last thought to support your visioning efforts. William Morris, who was a textile designer, writer, and philosopher of the British arts and crafts movement, said, "Have nothing in your houses that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful, period." And you get to define what's useful to you and what's beautiful to you. And then everything that's outside of those parameters can go. You can release it. You can let it go. Okay. Who wants to talk about this part of your design work?
Craig said, went through our garage after 15 years of neglect and 6 feet high with no paths left. Almost finished when COVID hit us. And after a year, I'm still exhausted from long hauler symptoms and have not returned to the focus on the last 10%. It was incredible how much we started using the garage for activities other than storage. We even created a gaming lair for our young adult son. He has loved having his own space. Part of our vision is to use the house for multiple purposes like this. Just need 2+ years of intense focus to reclaim the rest of it.
That's okay. I'm sorry you're having long haul symptoms. That's a bummer because I know that it really saps your energy badly. And so you've just had your version of modified physical capacity, right? So then you get to change your decluttering strategies to include the fact that your energy is low and maybe you need to get more help or have people come in and take direction from you so that you point and tell them what to do and then someone else does the work for you. This is where you have to accommodate your physical capacities. And it may take a little bit longer because you can't tackle it for long periods of time, but get out the calendar, start making planning to tackle it in 30 minutes in increments and see if that makes a difference.
And congratulations that you have a vision and that's guiding you and making what work you're able to do on it at this time to the point and headed in the right direction for you.
Exactly. Well, and that you got the garage done already. Like,
yeah,
even if you got it 90% done, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are super envious that you got 90% of it done. So you are ahead of the game, my man. I'm telling you that for sure.
Joyce says, my vision is a living space that's decluttered, easy to clean, and easy to have maintenance work done, replacing 30-year-old appliances, for example.
It's one of the things that shuts people down when they feel like the house is too crazy to let repairmen in. They can't let the Comcast guy come. They can't get the refrigerator fixed. They can't let the washing machine get repaired because then the guy has to come in and see the house. And I think that makes your quality of life be affected by the fact that you can't let somebody fix something so you can keep using the washing machine, the refrigerator, the fill in the blank. It does impact your quality of life.
Susie says, I should have a really clean place because there are very few non-negotiable things I have. I could probably fit them in my car.
Ooh.
But that was following up on having said, I am trying to imagine a future move and picturing myself in a much smaller place. I need to get rid of most of my things.
Now's the time. Yeah. You don't want to be trying to get rid of them the month that you're moving, because that's a million trips to a million places that you're going to go redistribute that stuff. And if you imagine even I'm going to give it all to Goodwill, you're still not going to be able to put it all in the car and drive it away in one trip, one trip or 2 trips. You're going to have to make a gazillion trips. So you might as well make them a little bit at a time over a year, instead of all at once in the last week or 2 weeks of the move, because that's just that much more on your to-do list. Like everything that you have to do for a move, in addition to distributing the things you're not going to take with you, it's a way that you can shorten your to-do list when move time comes.
Linda on Facebook says, I'm hearing lots of folks take the tittle from last week and shape it in a way that relates to where they are right now. Love to see this and excited to hear the forward progress.
Yeah, it's awesome when you really think my house is already on its way. Right. And so you're just thinking your way through what kinds of things can I peel off the edges that don't work and better support what I'm already trying to aim for.
Yeah.
You guys are doing great.
She also says, Linda also says, I'm realizing that I like and appreciate all kinds of things for my home, but I need to tease out what things I like enough to commit to the upkeep of that thing or space. And that's a great realization. It's especially true with, well, just people who have a creative inclination. You have creative and curious people are interested in
Everything.
2 times, 5 times, 10 times, 100 times the things that they actually have the money, resources, and space
To accommodate.
to accommodate.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
you have to do some self-examination.
And do some of your interest in exploring in a way that doesn't involve bringing it into your house. That's part of it.
Yeah.
Like, being able to explore what you're curious about, going to my eyes are bigger than my plate. Exactly. Going to the library to read instead of bringing the books home. Taking yourself out to see things out in the world instead of bringing them in to look at them. It's a way that you can modify.
Taking a class where they provide the materials and tools, and then you find out whether you enjoy painting or bonsai or.
Exactly.
Giorgio says, my brother told me use it or lose it. If you don't use it within a month or 2 or 3, then just get rid of the thing. And then he ended that with a question mark. Like, what do you think of that?
Lots of people use that as a filter, and it's usually people that don't have any trouble with the idea of, if I need this again, if I think I'm going to use this some other time, I can replace it. So they get comfortable with sending something on that they're not using right now, and when the need arises in the future to go procure something that allows them to do it later. So they're okay with spending the money a second time. They're okay with letting it go now. And if you can do that, great. It does help you release things and keep things out of your house so that there's not that much to live with and manage. And a lot of people that listen to us get hung up on that concept of sending something out and then having to pay for it again. Makes them anxious or uncomfortable. And it's usually people somewhere along the spectrum of they're saving everything against the future possibility of all the needs they might have. And they're trying to save money by not getting rid of something that they might have to replace someday and spend money on. And so it becomes a fight between, I want to keep all these things against the possibility that I might need it someday, and I want to save the money and not have to spend it again. And versus I have to live with all those possibilities. I have to live with the potential of all that problem solving in the house and be able to find it later. And so some people would rather not be surrounded by all the possibilities. And some people find having the possibilities present worth it, despite the fact that it crams them out of their space. It is a judgment call, and it's a place where people get hung up. And I always advocate for, if you can replace it cheaply and easily, whatever cheap is for you, then I would let it go. If you're not using it now and you don't often use it, or you don't have the potential that you're going to use it soon, then I would let something go and not live with it, and then spend a little bit of money to replace it later. And that just means that there's less for you to manage.
Well, and then it's also just a question of where it fits in your lifestyle or your vision, if you've articulated a vision, because you might have a hobby or craft that you only have time to do every year when you get your 3 weeks off at the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
But if it has expensive tools or equipment, you don't want to replace it every year. But if it's important to you and you're willing to make the space in your home for it, then that's your threshold.
Right. And part of why we're having this discussion about vision and how you imagine your house to be is because so many of my clients get stuck on all these things are valuable, all these objects are valuable, but they don't recognize the next step, which is all these things aggregated in my house prevent me from doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Like you can't live your life the way that you want to live it, have the house look the way that you want it to look, interact with your family and friends in the way you want to, have repair people come over. Like it impacts your ability to live your life in the way that you imagine. And so we're just trying to remind you that you're having an idea of how the house should be and function for you to be happy is just as important, if not more important, than keeping all the things. And a lot of people default to keeping all the things and they never think about, how do I want my space to be for me? And how do I want to live? And how do I want that to function and work? And we're hoping to give you a way to tackle the management of the stuff in a way that values what you think is important and values how you want to live in such a way that lets you choose yourself and your values over the thing.
A great comment from M, who says health limitations inhibit the ability to replace items easily and cheaply. I have been rewarded repeatedly by keeping stuff. Kind of too bad, eh? And it's a good point. And the question I think is, can you peel, as Gayle says, can you peel away from the edges? Can you
thin the herd?
Thin the herd. Is well, and is your clutter standing in the way of things that you want? Is it? Yeah, it's great when you can find that thing you need after holding on to it for 3 years and you've saved yourself from repurchasing it. But what else could you have had or done? Or
with a clearer space,
with a clearer space
items there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I do get it that feels like a bonus when you actually use something in the house, but usually it means that you are keeping 500 items so that you can use 3. When the reward of having what you need when you need it, it happens 10 times and you have 600 other objects in the house that never come to the top of the list. And the trick is you can never know which ones are going to be the win. You never know which ones are going to be the ones that you actually need. And so if you value the win and being able to, oh, look, I still have that. And to be able to do that, you have to keep 600 extra items in the house. If that's what's important to you and that's your value, then okay, then you have to figure out how to keep the 600 things. And if that's not your value in that way, then maybe it's that you try to prioritize the items. Like, what are the items that are the most likely to get reused? And what are the items that are the least likely to get reused? And maybe you can make the 600 item list be 300 items instead by taking out, the ones that are at the bottom of the possibility list. Maybe that's a balance that you can reach between, I want to be able to have things and get the win when I need them, and I want the house to be less crowded.
Angelica on Facebook has a great question here, or set of questions. My husband wants to organize the garage, but is not making a concrete plan to conquer it. How can I encourage him to begin? Also, when we work together on a project like this, there is always stress since we relate to clutter in different ways. He holds on to things that I would not. How can I minimize the conflict? So talk to us more about enrolling someone else in the vision.
In the vision, right.
Or supporting someone else when they're the one who needs to have the vision, maybe.
Right. So if your husband he must have some vision if he has the idea that he's going to go and clean the garage. So maybe the vision is he wants to straighten it up. And in the straightening, he will let a little bit go. But if he's super attached to it all and he wants to keep it, then having that conversation with him about what needs to be kept and what doesn't, it's a tricky place to navigate, because your immediate response is, well, just get rid of it. And he knows that that's your immediate response. He is waiting for you to say that, because you've had this conversation a million times, right? So he's absolutely waiting for you to say, just get rid of it. You don't need that. And saying those sentences is immediate shutdown. He's going to shut down and go, but they're mine and I want them and whatever. So I think it's really important to ask, instead of to just have your knee-jerk response, which is let go of that. Have some more open-ended questions like, do you have an idea about how you would use that? And don't say it like, how do you think you're going to use that? Like, it needs to be a very neutral, supportive, please explain to me, I don't understand how this thing works, or I don't understand what this is. When do you use this? And when would that happen? And he can describe that to you, and you can say, do you think you're going to do that in the next 5 years or 3 years or 2 years or 6 months? And if the answer is no, then would it be okay to let that go now? And then if you actually need to do this, then you can go buy a new one, or you can go borrow it from the person that you gave it to, or you can go rent one. You can ask the question about how he would use it and how often he would use it. And is there another way for him to have it? Is there another way for him to get it when he needs it? And you would be having to have that conversation about every single thing in a very neutral way. So you might encourage him to start not thinking that he has to tackle the whole garage, but just tackle a corner. Garages and overstuffed garages are big and they take a lot of work, and it's very physical and it makes people tired. So the idea of tackling it all in one day or one weekend is not realistic. And it's one of the places where people get hung up and then sort of fail in their goal. So instead say, let's not try to, and you can put it all on you. Let's not try to do the whole garage, because that's going to take too long. And we're going to wear out before that's done. So let's just work in this corner by the washing machine, or let's just work on the tool bench, or let's just work on this corner in the back. Let's just work on this shelf or door or wall space. Don't try to tackle the whole thing. Just plan on 2 hours, 3 hours. We're going to go in and work on this wall. And then when we're done with that wall, we're going to stop and walk away, because we're both going to be tired. And you can sort of help him set shorter goals of accomplishment, and then support him in finding the things that need to be distributed. And you can take on those tasks. If he wants to let something go or to give something away, then you can say, oh, I'll take that to blah, blah, blah. And you can take on the errand part of the job, which is, I'm going to run that and give that away to Uncle Fred, or I'm going to give that to the neighbor, or I'm going to go donate that to the school. You can take on those errands for him, and that will let him have some level of, I did some work, we made it clear, I gave some directions, and I didn't have to do all the distribution. And hopefully that process feels successful for him. And you guys can then plan on, okay, every other week, twice a month. We're not going to do it every weekend. He's not going to give up every weekend. So we're going to do 2 or 3 hours twice a month until we make it all the way around the garage. Because, there's no fire drill, right? So do it at a speed that makes it a possibility. And remember, your job is to be neutral, because he knows that how you feel about it is, I'm rolling my eyes. Why are you keeping that? Let's just get rid of it, because that's your level of frustration, and the fact that the things in the garage are not things that you're attached to. And so you have to be respectful of what he is attached to, and also be neutral and questioning, so that he can either come to the realization that he probably doesn't need to keep it and be willing to let it go without losing face because you've made him get rid of it, or he can explain that it is important, and you can honor what he thinks is valuable and make space for it and make it work.
Watch for his signals and cues that he's overwhelmed, that he's tired, that he's reached decision fatigue or decision collapse.
Yeah.
And at the start, that may be half an hour or 45 minutes in, but if you're patient and compassionate, his capacity will grow.
And if you don't set the expectation that he needs to get the garage done this weekend, right?
Yeah.
If the goal is, I just want us to work on this corner of the garage for a couple of hours. Like, I just want to get started on the project. I don't think it's a project that needs completion this weekend. Then you can set the physical expectations for him that he's not going to have to give up Saturday and Sunday and be exhausted. He can just work for 2 hours and then walk away and go back to the football. Right. And so it's setting the expectations for him and making them clear, because he's probably got in his head, she wants me to clear the garage. She wants me to clear the garage. And that is an overwhelming project to him. And so if you can say, what I really want is for us to put 2 hours into this corner of the garage, and then that is a more achievable goal, and keeping that in mind and communicating that with him, and then setting the timer, working for 2 hours, staying in that, when he wanders off to some other area, bringing him back to this specific corner, and, getting what you can get done in that corner, throwing things in the trash, throwing things in recycle, putting out things to the curb, giving donations. There will be some in every, 4 square feet of the garage. There's going to be some of all that. So it'll be easy for you to stay in one place and work and make some progress. And if you feel progress and he feels released after a couple of hours, then it makes the task more manageable and less overwhelming, and his resistance will lessen.
Craig says, my wife and I save different things differently. Both save too much, but don't relate to each other's emotional attachment or logic. It's an ongoing situation that will likely never be completely resolved, but Gayle is absolutely correct.
And it's not really logic. The reason that you keep things isn't really logic. That's sort of a euphemism for my emotional attachment. And so trying to convince the other of your logic is a losing proposition. And really everybody just has to respect what everybody else wants. And if you guys are having trouble with too much accumulation, then everybody gets to look at their own stuff and make their own choices about their own stuff. And that place is how you can find some relief. Your wife can't tell you what to get rid of your stuff, and you can't tell her what to get rid of her stuff, but you both can commit to looking at your own things and trying to thin the herd, because your collective goal as a family is for there to be less stuff in the house. And so you can encourage each other to go look at your stuff, but everybody has to participate. It can't just be one person going, go get rid of your stuff. It has to be a collective goal. And maybe this is how the visioning process will help you, Craig, in that if the two of you guys can sit and think about, where do we want to go? How far do we want to get? How much do we want to get rid of? Do we want this room to be 100% clear? And right now we can't even walk through it. If that's the goal, then there's a lot of work to do and a lot of choices to make. And if you can agree on what goal you have, then maybe what vision you have for the space, what you want to be able to do, like Ginger and her husband made that vision together. And if you guys can set that vision for yourselves as a couple, as a family, then it allows everyone to compare their choices against the ultimate vision. And maybe that makes it easier for both of you.
There's one more comment I want to get back to, but first, a couple of quick announcements. We recognize that after Thanksgiving, once we get past Thanksgiving, we're probably being a little unrealistic in expecting people to tackle new organizing projects or even to make a whole lot of progress on the existing ones. So we're going to talk next week about planning for next year. Our topic will be back November 30th at the usual time, and we're calling next week's show Make Space for the Life You Love, Setting Organizing Goals for 2021.
Good time to get your vision done, because we're going to set those goals based on the vision you have for your house.
The comment I wanted to share is from Elaine, who's with us on Facebook. Elaine says, "You are so right that our homes should reflect our values. I thought my vision was to have a super tidy minimalist house with monochromatic colors in gray and white with sparse furniture, but I soon found that style felt cold and uncomfortable. It didn't work for me. I like warm and cozy. What works for me is lots of earth tones and mid-century modern furnishings. It makes me feel so happy. I'm not going to worry about trendy decorating or keeping up with the latest fads."
Because ultimately it only works if you like the current fad. If you don't like the current fad, then you're just decorating your house as something that you don't like. So good realization. That's a great thing. And that's why you want to think about it, because it's your house, and who cares if it's trendy? It needs to be what you want it to be, and it needs to make you happy. And it doesn't matter what the family that lives outside of your home says. It only matters what the family that lives in the home says. And so, they got their own house to decorate their own way. So you can do your house the way that you want it. And don't listen to the people that come in and go, "Mom, why are you, this is ridiculous," or "I can't believe that this house, look at all this old furniture, blah, blah, blah." Like, whatever. Maybe you like mid-century modern and they can't imagine, they think mid-century modern is too cold. This is why we all have our own spaces, and we get to decorate our own spaces, right? So great for you to realize that. And I'm glad that you did, because can you imagine having spent all that time and money and made it all gray and white and black, and then you would have come in and gone, "Ew, I don't feel good in this house at all." So good for you.
Okay, let's talk tittle.
Let's talk tittle. Creating a vision part 2. This week's assignment is to continue the process of designing a vision for your home, building on last week's efforts. If you haven't begun the process to create a vision for your home yet, revisit the webcast last week for the guidance. And you want to start with the action items we suggest in the weekly tittle. Then make a list of values or principles that you want your home to embody and honor. Your list can include individual words, short phrases, or complete statements. Set aside time to reflect on how you want to feel or how you want to help other people feel in your home. Make note of other locations and spaces that have evoked the desired feelings for you. Capture your vision however you wish. Begin the process of collecting and curating elements for a vision board, or start a notebook or a journal to craft a written vision statement. However you want to express your vision is up to you. Whatever works for you. So we're not trying to overwhelm you with the craft project of a vision. We just want you to figure out your way to document it so that you can refer back to it. So maybe it's just that you make a list on a whiteboard somewhere, a dry erase board, and ... here's the things that I care about. Or maybe you want to get super crafty about it and have it all be in picture form, whatever works for you. We just want you to create a reference point, a place that you can go look at that vision and see it in all of the elements that we've discussed about it. Because ultimately what you're going to do with that vision is use it as your target. You're going to use it for your goal setting. You're going to use it to go, why am I keeping this old television? Does it have anything to do with my vision of serenity and peace in the house or entertaining my friends? Well, no, because I've got this other television over here that has all the, gaming set up on it, and this TV doesn't matter anymore. So I can let it go. This is the evaluation that we want you to be able to do against your vision of the home that would make you happy and feel comfortable and feel enriched in. And we want you to have that list to refer to. So figure out how to do it that makes you happy. And maybe if you're doing a bullet journal, you can make it all in the bullet journal. whatever works for you. And we will see you back next week to talk about it. That's our next thing to do.
Someone in the comments said, did I mean 2022? I don't know if I said 2021 when I was supposed to be saying 2022.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yes, we definitely meant 2022. It's too late to make any plans for 2021 other than,
if you make them, then you will probably also not accomplish them. So let's just start our plan for next year, right?
Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. We have so much fun with our live audience.
It's
to
true.
receive notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by going to cfhou.com/Facebook, or subscribe to our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe.
The cool thing about the mailing list is that Ed sends out links to all of the things that we just did, and he tells you what the meeting is going to be about the next week. And so you sort of get a little report of what we did this week and what we're going to do next week.
Yeah, and if you don't want to have to pay attention when I'm showing the slide, just sign up for the mailing list, because usually the morning after the each week's show, you'll get the little summary that has a link to the show notes page that has the text of the tittle and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we love to hear from you. Please keep those questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. And you can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com. We
love seeing you every week. And thank you again to the lady from Israel. That's really wonderful.
Maria.
I'm going to have to figure out what time it is there. we're always excited that people make the effort to join us from other parts of the world. So thank you. And we will see you guys next week.
Maria says 9 p.m.
Oh, 9 p.m. Oh my gosh. Thank you for staying up for us then.
That's right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.